Business schools are the places we look to for expertise on leadership and equity. But they often don't practice what they preach. So today, we're going to unpack a really fascinating puzzle. Why is there such a persistent gender leadership gap in business schools, and what can we actually do about it?
It really all boils down to this one number, 23.5%. That's it. That's the percentage of full professors in business schools who are women, at the very top of the academic ladder. That's not just a gap, it's a chasm. The research argues this isn't a pipeline problem. It's not that there aren't enough women coming in. It's a promotion problem. So the big question is, why?
And wow, this quote really gets right to the heart of the issue, doesn't it? Business schools make a lot of money advising corporations on how to fix their gender gaps, but they really struggle to apply that same advice to themselves. This points to some deep systemic issues that we're about to get into.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by defining what the academic glass ceiling even is. Then, we'll dig into 3 huge challenges holding women back. And then the good part, we'll lay out an actual, actionable plan for change before we wrap it all up.
First up, the academic glass ceiling. The key idea here is that this isn't just about trying to level the playing field. It's about taking a hard look at the game itself and realizing we might need to rethink the whole field entirely.
So, if we all agree this isn't about a lack of talent or interest from women, then what is it? What are the real systemic barriers that are getting in the way? Let's break down the 3 biggest challenges, starting with the culture.
All right, challenge number 1, the masculine social structure. This idea traces all the way back to the historical roots of business schools. They were, male-dominated institutions from the start, and that legacy still shapes the culture we see today.
So what does that culture actually look like in practice? Well, it creates some very real problems. Women in leadership positions can face tokenism and feel really isolated. They often get hit with a double bind, where they get called bossy for the exact same behaviors that get praised in men. And all of this gets piled on top of the disproportionate caregiving responsibilities many women already have.
This culture leads to a really powerful dynamic that researchers call the pet-to-threat phenomenon. Here's how it works. At first, a promising junior woman is mentored and supported. She's the pet. But as she starts to climb the ladder and compete for real power, she's no longer seen as a protege. Suddenly, she's viewed as a threat to the established order.
The shift is just stark. In that pet stage, she gets support. But the moment she gains real seniority and power, she enters the threat stage. The very same ambition that was once praised is now seen as a violation of gender norms, and she's met with resistance. And this bias is especially tough for women of color.
Now, let's move on to our second big challenge, muddled performance evaluation. This is all about how people's work is judged, because when the goalposts are unclear and they seem to be constantly moving, it creates the perfect breeding ground for bias to creep in. And you see this fuzziness everywhere in academic life. What one person considers top-tier research can be a moving target. Teaching quality? Well, that's often based heavily on student evaluations, which we know are notoriously biased. And then there's the service work, the essential stuff that's often not clearly defined or rewarded, which leads to a huge double standard. And this service double standard is a massive problem. Women are often expected to do more of what's called academic housework, all those tasks that are necessary but don't lead to promotion. They get rewarded less for doing it, but they're penalized if they say no. And on top of that, they're judged on vague things like collegiality that can be so easily used against them.
All of this creates a burden with a name, cultural taxation. It's that invisible, unrewarded work that's expected of faculty from underrepresented groups. They're constantly asked to be the diversity rep on committees and for students, doing absolutely vital work that almost never counts toward their own promotion.
And that brings us to our final challenge, biased research topics. This one goes even deeper. It's about what gets studied, what gets valued, and crucially, who gets to decide what research is considered important in the first place.
Think about it. The crucial point here is that research on topics that disproportionately affect women, things like pregnancy discrimination, sexual harassment, or work-life balance, is often subtly devalued. These topics get dismissed as niche, which makes it that much harder for the scholars studying them to get published and promoted.
And this points to a really key issue in how research is often done. You'll see studies that control for gender and race. What that means is they're basically treating these identities as statistical noise to be filtered out. But that practice makes the very real challenges faced by women and people of color completely invisible. It hides how identity fundamentally shapes our experiences at work.
Okay, so we've laid out the problems, and that can feel, well, a little heavy.
But the good news is, the source material doesn't just stop there. It offers a clear roadmap for change, with 12 concrete, actionable solutions for building a better, more inclusive system. Let's walk through them.
So, to fix that masculine structure, the roadmap is all about transparency and accountability. That means publicly reporting the data on gender, making it crystal clear how professorships are awarded, creating physical spaces that feel inclusive to everyone, and making sure those caregiving policies are actually working for people. Now, to clarify those muddled evaluations, the solutions are all about creating fair and objective processes. This means setting clear criteria for success, using rating scales that are less subjective, and even having trained justice advocates in promotion committees specifically to watch out for bias.
And finally, to address that research bias, the key is to expand what we consider valuable. That means journals need to invite wider perspectives. Researchers need to treat identity as a core variable, not noise. And senior faculty need to step up and actively mentor and sponsor women scholars. Which brings us to our big conclusion: stronger together. Because ultimately, this isn't just about fixing a problem for women. Creating a more equitable environment is something that benefits absolutely everyone. The authors of the source article end with this quote from John Lennon. They know these changes can seem idealistic, maybe even like a dream. But they argue that the vision of a truly inclusive business school is a shared one, and it's a dream worth pursuing together. And that really brings us to our final takeaway. Pushing for systemic change like this is uncomfortable. It has to be. It requires us to challenge the status quo and our own biases. At the end of the day, the pursuit of real equity isn't about staying comfortable. It's about making things genuinely better for everyone. So, we want to leave you with this question to think about. This work doesn't just fall on the shoulders of the deans and administrators. Whether you're a student, an alum, faculty, or staff, how can we all play a part in rethinking the playing field to build a future where leadership truly reflects the incredible talent of everyone?